Once a month, we gather with our friends from High Point Networks, talk about whatever may be going on, what we may have seen in tech, and I got a couple of questions for Shawn today. Shawn Mendel is here. He is the Director of Professional Services at High Point Networks, kind of one of our partners here, and people that we know and we rely on to keep the bad people out and the hackers away and the ransomware people, et cetera, et cetera. Shawn, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Hi, good morning. Doing well.
Good.
I would say above average.
Always good to hear. Still on the right side of the grass, right?
That's right.
Let's talk about broad security for a second. And honestly, with this, and I'm sure you're watching the news with this ship hitting the bridge in Baltimore, all the talk is a buzz about being able to hack a ship like that. I mean, and I would imagine, and as I was thinking about our conversation today, whether it's a ship hacking the GPS or something to do with the control systems, if you have access, et cetera, or your business or your home, I suppose it's all kind of the same bucket, isn't it? Depending on who's hacking you.
Absolutely. A word of thumb is if it's connected to the internet, it's accessible by the threat actors. So if it's online, it's there to be accessed by the threat actors. So that's the rule, whether it be a car, a ship, a computer, a phone, whatever it may be, anything that's connected can be vulnerable.
Oh, I love terms like that. Tell me about threat actors. Is that the term for these scumbags?
That's the term that we commonly use. Yep, to describe our friends that we fight against.
Dark web people. I mean, I hear about the dark web, and I think about, well, is that, to get to the dark web, do I just put in a different dot something? Do I put dark web if I want to access the dark? I mean, talk about that a little bit and where these threat actors live and work and reign.
Well, yeah, the dark web is a part of the internet. You can just get to it with your standard browser that you and I use. There's different browsers that are used for that and different domain names that are used to get there. That is commonly where the information that they are able to exfiltrate from your personal life or your work, where you work. That's where that information is generally put up for sale, or in some cases just given away. So when they collect data from the breaches that they engage in, the dark web is where you'll find it.
Talk about obviously at High Point Networks. I mean, you keep a lot of data secure around our neighborhood. What have you seen, or the story? Like, what are some horror stories that you hear about businesses going, dude? I just saw this film called The Beekeeper. I don't know if you've seen it, but this gal who's a friend of Jason Statham's in the movie. He's the beekeeper. She has a problem with her computer. She calls. She's naive. She calls this number, clicks on a couple things, enters a password, clicks submit, and boom, her accounts are gone. I mean, is it to that? I mean, to that level that they can get in, and if they, as far as ransom or stealing or whatever goes, tell me a horror story or two that you've heard.
So, yeah, the common threat actors are very smart. They're very clever. They're going to do two of the maybe most common things that we would see would be taking advantage of a known vulnerability within a system. So let's just say a firewall or other system has a known weakness or a known vulnerability. They will, they'll come across those, they'll learn of those, they'll find those, and then they'll exploit them in order to gain access to a system. Another common way, however, is social engineering, tricking people with clever emails, with clever text messages, with even phone calls. It's the human can be a weak link in all of that, and so
my wife has asked me about that. My wife has asked me about that twice in the last month. It's like, does this look? And one was from Amazon, and one was from like Expedia. I was like, no, those aren't. No, because you can tell the links are funky. Right. I just don't think that you would see any of that.
Yeah, and one thing a little trend we're seeing right now within our customers is when someone starts a new job and they maybe go into LinkedIn and they advertise that, hey, I'm now working here. They will then almost immediately begin to get communications from who appears to be the CEO or some higher level of management, asking them to do something for them. So that's a little trend we're seeing at the moment, if you want something that's really current.
You know, what's funny though is you see these threat actors and the bad ones. They don't have a clue about how to write a sentence in English. I going to get you. You need put money. like, maybe
Well,
learn what commas are for, buddy. Then come at us
there,
again.
there are those, and then there are the ones who are really good and really
Are
clever
really
and
good
do
at
a really good job. Yeah, yeah, they
the
both are.
where
Both kinds are out there.
where are they when you say out there? Threat actors, China. We know. I'm sure they're all over the world, aren't they?
They are. We believe most of them are overseas. However, you can't make that assumption. There are, if you go back and look at news stories, there are some domestic threat actors who have been arrested. But for the most part, they're overseas, outside of jurisdictions of what we can really do. And it's generally from the countries that we're not necessarily friendly with. So there's really not going to be much for cooperation necessarily from a law enforcement perspective, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate. But that's how it works. But yet we're all connected on the same internet. So it's a constant battle that we face, and so there's a lot of things we got to do to protect ourselves from that, both on a personal level and at work.
I forget who was doing the documentary on that I saw, but they were in like Mumbai or somewhere in Pakistan, and one of the, like in a but there was a like a this massive call center, and the whole thing was dedicated to scamming. And I mean, there was probably 300 people in there. Most of them spoke very good English, and they were talking. These people were born and raised in India, but they had perfect American accents. And I mean, you talk about good actors and bad threat actors. They were these people were pretty good, and I want to say I saw that 8-10 years ago.
It's a big business. It
Oh,
involves a lot of people, and the other thing that we see too is you don't necessarily have to be very tech savvy or smart either to be a successful threat actor. You can essentially rent the tools, or as a service, you can purchase the tools that are used to do these attacks. So you just have to have the time, and then you essentially rent the tools, so to speak, to do these attacks. So you don't even have to be that smart from a technical perspective to carry out successful attacks on people personally or at places where they work.
yeah, we talk about it all the time when we have you guys on talking the Byte Sized Insights with High Point Network, Shawn Mendel, about your passwords, 16 characters
Mm-hmm.
long. Don't make them harder more than
Yeah.
easy. I know and don't use the same password across all your platforms. They should be unique. Don't reuse old ones,
Mm-hmm.
passphrases. It's amazing what they
Right.
can scrape when they talk about like this TikTok thing, scraping data.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, or
Right.
like you see these what's your favorite color? All these little surveys about the states you've seen in
Mm-hmm.
and people don't, some of these threat actors are gathering that up on you.
That's exactly what they're doing. They're gathering information. Also, information is gathered from other breaches. If something
Yep.
that you've logged into in the past or have your personal information at is breached, now the threat actors have that information. So that's why some of the things you just mentioned about password best practices are so important. Not using the same password in multiple things, and even change them on a regular basis, because we don't know when that
Yep.
last system was last breached. So sometimes we don't know until months later. So there's a lot of there's a lot of things to do about managing our online identities and managing those credentials that
My
really we don't always do a good job of. We get kind of
Yeah,
lazy a little bit.
that's the thing. My wife had her initial Facebook account hacked, and a great tip that I
Mm-hmm.
got from you guys was the double authentication thing, where they have, if you log in
Right.
from any new device, it's either going to text you or email me. So and now
Mm-hmm.
and it's weird, dude. In like the last probably 6 months, I've had probably three or four. Someone tried to get into your account, so they're they're on me. But
Mm-hmm. Right.
that's a great tip, isn't it? To do that multi-factor authentication deal wherever you can.
Wherever you possibly can. And I want to also stress, though, that it's not 100% foolproof either. Now, it is good, and
Right.
you must do it because it is going to help in many, many situations. However, we've seen some attacks recently where threat actors are able to, by sending you an email, get you to click on links and provide credentials, and then at the same time steal the tokens and things that are created on the machines, and then
Yeah.
actually find ways past that multi-factor authentication, unfortunately. We have seen that. Now, again, you still have to do it. It's still kind of
Wow.
a minimum requirement. and like you experienced, you are going to stop a lot of the threats, because it's a pretty sophisticated attack to do that, and not all the threat actors, I guess, are doing that. But yeah, it's definitely a minimum requirement. But again, like anything, nothing's 100% when it comes to cybersecurity.
Yeah. Boy, and the password thing, the passphrase, you shouldn't put those on like a document on your computer, should you?
You
It's
should not. No.
labeled passwords, right? We should see, honey, I told you. We should not leave that out there.
That is true. Using a password manager is a really good idea. And in fact, I would recommend having two of them, one for work and one for personal use, keeping those identities separate. We have seen some of these password manager companies, they will, if the company subscribes to the service or to the product, they will then provide a free license for each employee to use on a personal basis,
There you go.
just to try to keep that personal cyber hygiene in a good place. So that's really good. And you might be asking this question. Some other folks might be asking this question. Well, now I got one password that has access to all my passwords. That doesn't seem like a good idea. So that's a valid question. And the good password managers will put some additional controls in place. For example, to log into once your account's fully set up, in order to log into that account, you need to provide a username, a password, a predefined a secret key, which is generally 32 characters or longer, and then also the multi-factor. So there's 4 things you got to know or have in order to gain access to that.
Well, can you hang out just a little bit longer? I got a couple of questions. Joan has a question for you too. Okay, cool. We're talking to Shawn Mendel from High Point Networks. Be right back. We're talking with Shawn Mendel with High Point Networks, wrapping up our Byte Sized Insights segment that we do once a month. Just been talking about hacking and security and different things that kind of get on my radar. And of course, you can't say enough about High Point Networks. First of all, they're local. They partner with over 30 plus industries, premier manufacturers, keeping their data secure, premier business IT solutions. Nobody better in our neighborhood. Find out more at highpointnetworks.com. That's why we have them on talking about what we're talking about. Joan had a quick question for us, Shawn. Joan, what was your question, my friend?
Yeah, just about the hacking. You said that they could hack anything that's connected to the internet. And, we've heard so often, I've heard many times that these whole voter machines, dominions are connected to the internet. They say, oh, no, they're not. And then they find out that they are. Not every place, I'm sure, but in some places they have been finding this out for sure. And so if there's a question whether that it could be or couldn't be, and it's so easy to do it, I'm sure, why did they continue with them? And Amy Klobuchar, from what I've heard, and she hasn't denied it, that she used to hate those Dominion machines. She used to hate them until they found out that they worked to steal the votes. And now now they're fine with them.
Yeah.
Mike Lindell has been going after this for 3 years, and he's always been crazy, and they dismiss it. Thank you.
Yep. Gotcha. No, and so the question, Shawn, is with these machines, I mean, clearly, if there's a Wi-Fi setup somehow, they can connect to the internet. They don't have to be hardlined to the internet. That's kind of 101 stuff. My thing is there a way to tell if a device is connected to a Wi-Fi? I would imagine there is. I can tell if I'm stealing my neighbor's Wi-Fi. He can tell, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm not going to call myself an expert on the voting machine specifically, but I will stick with what I said earlier, that anything connected to the internet potentially is vulnerable. Now, there's a lot of things that are connected to the internet every day, though, that is very important. Medical records and financial transactions and all of that is protected well. So, with the right controls in place, they can be protected and kept safe. But again, I'll go back to also what I said, that when it comes to cybersecurity, nothing is ever 100%. There's always a risk. And so essentially, cyber security becomes a risk management, really, right? We're just trying to lower our risk as much as we possibly can. So that would apply to anything, whether it be a voting machine, again, a car, a computer, a tablet, whatever it may be.
Well, you're a warrior, brothers. Keep up. Give our best to the crew there at High Point Networks, and we'll chat next month. We'll talk more, and let us know if there anything comes up that we need to know about.
All right, we'll do that. Thank you.
You bet. I got it. Shawn Mendel, highpointnetworks.com. And if you want to call them, send any questions, 701-282-6459.